Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Chassity. We read a lot of books, we do a lot of things, kind of the whole shtick. Today is kind of more on a serious note for my page specifically, but I have been seeing a lot of the new Haunting Adeline movie adaptations on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. It's kind of everywhere. And I am not here to yuck anybody's yum, but I have some thoughts about this particular movie adaptation. So before we get started, I do want to put a little bit of a trigger warning here. We are going to be talking about some serious themes like assault, SA, stalking. If that makes you uncomfortable, please feel free to move along. You don't have to stay. I never want to make anybody feel any type of way. If you are like #1 supporter, huge fan of this book, you might not necessarily agree with what I'm about to say or my opinions. But again, these are simply my opinions. This is what I feel about what's happening and the movie coming out and about the book itself. I did like a little bit of research and I'm going to talk about a few things of why I think this movie should not be made. So if you're unfamiliar with H.D. Carlton's Haunting of Adeline, the premise of this book is this girl moves into her grandmother's house and it starts being stalked by this man. Now, he does have a double life where he is actively working against human trafficking, but this man does stalk her and break into her house and drug her. So some, not necessarily character alignments for this particular person, in my opinion. I am going to go ahead and read you the book synopsis on FABLE for this particular book. It is a duology, which we will get into a little bit later in the video. But Haunting Adeline, the manipulator, I can manipulate the emotions of anyone who lets me. I will make you hurt, make you cry, make you laugh, and sigh. But my words don't affect him, especially not when I plead for him to leave. He's always there, watching and waiting, and I can never look away, not when I want him to come closer. The shadow. I didn't mean to fall in love, but now that I have, I can't stay away. I'm mesmerized by her smile, by her eyes, and the way she moves, the way she undresses. I'll keep watching and waiting until I can make her mine. And once she is, I'll never let her go, not even when she begs me to. Do we kind of get the vibe? This book is marketed as an extra spicy, extreme dark romance. Now, I read this book. I did. About 2 years ago, I read Haunting Adeline. I love a good dark romance. I'm not here to judge or shame anybody. I like me a spicy dark romance, mafia, bikers, stalking romances. Lights Out by Nevessa Allen, one of my favorite books. That's a stalker romance. In no way, shape, or form am I saying you're a bad person for liking these books. My apprehension is the fact that there are graphic and violent SA scenes in these books. Those are what made me very uncomfortable, kind of sick to my stomach, made me not really want to finish the book, but I did. And if you look at my FABLE, I did give it a rating of, I believe, 3 stars. The underlying thriller plot line of this book I thought was super entertaining. The spice was, when consensual, well written. I will say throughout this video, you're going to see me looking at my phone. I did make some notes. I just wanted to make sure that my thoughts were jotted down and aligned so that way I didn't get kind of lost in the sauce anywhere. Okay. There are a few points that I just kind of want to go over and break down. And again, in my opinion, and just give you some thoughts. The first thing that I kind of want to talk about is probably going to be the most triggering. So please beware of the next several minutes of this particular video. We are going to be talking about statistics from the FBI on sexual assault cases. The closest thing that's been released to date as a movie was 50 Shades of Grey. And so I really wanted to take the statistics that were surrounding that movie and those years and kind of plug them into here. And my fear is there's going to be a correlation of SA by intimate partners when this book comes out, and we are going to be putting women in danger. So I do want to look at a couple of statistics. I'm going to read off some numbers for you. Okay. In 2010, by the FBI's legacy definition, which was female-only reporting, was 85,593 intimate partner assaults. In 2015, after the movie release, it was 9,185. Also in 2015, the gender neutral reporting was 124,047 assaults. 2010 had no data for gender neutral reporting because between those 5 years, they opened it up to men and non-binary people. There's also a large push for like general awareness. I will say a lot of this research that I did, the FBI and the police reports do not think that there was a correlation to the movie coming out, and more so about the opening of the legal definition of what an assault is, and by adding men and non-binary people to that registry of victims instead of being female only. But you also have to remember that not every case is reported. A lot of people don't go to the police because they feel that there are no real helping factors in that, which is not true. If you've ever been put into a dangerous situation by an intimate partner or a stranger, there will be resources in the description for if you or a loved one has been a victim of assault of any kind. The goal is always to keep our family and our communities safe. I also looked up some of the things that psychological professionals were saying about these movies. The hurtful side of this is the glorification of intimate partner related violence. But the helpful thing about these books that have come to light was the normalization of the female libido and the education of boundaries, which is an overarching plotline in a lot of dark romance, was consent and boundaries and making sure that everybody felt safe and in control of the situation. Now, how do all of these statistics surrounding 50 Shades of Grey kind of tie into what I think about Haunting Adeline? It all comes down to consent. My fear is that people are going to go see this movie and think that the things that are being portrayed in this movie are normal or widely acceptable. Now, there is a BDSM community, and if that is something that you're interested, please look up resources and talk to your partner about consent, boundaries, safe words, all of those fun things. By taking that autonomy away from a person and forcing them into a situation where they have no control and they do not feel safe, that's where we draw a line and we become a problem. I think there are going to be too many men who go and see this movie with a partner and decide this is something that she likes and forces them into a situation where they are hurt and traumatized without having the appropriate conversations surrounding that kind of intimate behavior. And again, a lot of the discourse around this particular book and movie was a lot of people found it very healing and very therapeutic to see those fantasies played out. But the concern becomes traumatizing or re-traumatizing men and women. Does that make sense? With that, I think I'm going to move over into my next point of conversation, which is H.G. Carlton has very blatantly said that she does not think that fiction should be censored and that they will not be watering down any of these explicit scenes for the general consumption of this movie. Now, that being said, there will be young people in this audience going to see this movie. Even if you make it 18 or older to go watch this movie, you make it X-rated, whatever, college and teenage kids have fake IDs. They have, if it's rated R, they have a parent who will take them to this movie unknowingly, thinking that it's perfectly fine. I think the concern is, again, young men seeing things in this movie and trying to replicate them. Even if it is put onto a streaming platform, it's not aired in any kind of theaters. There's no age restriction to viewing platforms like this. And when I was a kid, my parents would put me to bed and then go watch a PG-13 rated movie that I wasn't allowed to watch. And I would sneak around the corner and watch behind the couch where they couldn't see me. There are ways around it. We are, by putting this into the world as visual consumption, putting young people at risk of being introduced to things way before they are ready or are able to separate fiction from real life morality. There are going to be young people who see this that think stalking is okay, that thinking forcing your partner into intimate situations is totally normal because it's in a movie and it was romanticized. We're setting a lot of people up to be hurt and be put into danger. Some adults may be able to separate what is fiction versus what is reality, but when we're introducing it to the generalized public, kids can't. The key word to this is adults. This is an adult novel. This is an adult movie. children are still going to be able to access this. Which really kind of pushes us into my third point of contention was when the second book was released, it was pulled from several shelves, including Amazon. I did go and look it up to see why it was pulled. The reason that the second book, which has much more graphic content and much more traumatizing content, was pulled from Amazon because the very straightforward wording of the trigger warnings at the beginning of the book flagged their censors, and it had to be pulled, and the trigger warnings had to be reworded. Now, I don't know which triggers caused the pull or caused the flag. Therefore, I don't know which trigger warnings were reworded to be allowed to be submitted. But if you have to reword your trigger warnings, maybe we should not make that publicly accessible. There are also a lot of small bookstores, like brick and mortar mom and pop bookstores, that don't carry this book at all. There are some that do carry it, but they refuse to open shelve it, meaning you can't just walk up to the shelf and find it. You do have to ask the customer service representative at the counter. And a lot of them will ID you to make sure that you were over the age of 18. Again, fake IDs, young audiences. We're introducing people to sexual deviance at a very young age. We're putting people in danger. And my last thought and conversation that I've had with other people is this book is marketed as an extreme dark romance. I don't think that this book is romantic. And again, this is my personal opinion. I don't think this book is romantic as much as it is Stockholm Syndrome. I think it would be more acceptable to label this as a horror or a thriller with romantic themes, maybe. I like a dark romance as much as the next girl. I have read so many biker and mafia romances. I've even read things that were questionable for their content. Falling in love with serial killers, things like that. The overarching thing in all of these dark romances is explicit consent. These bikers and these mafia men and these stalkers always make sure that their quote unquote prey feels in control of the situation, does not touch them without their explicit consent. Most of them make them ask for any kind of intimate behavior, and they make sure that everyone is safe. There are boundaries set. And the concept of having a dark romance where there's a morally gray character is that morally gray character is bad to other people, not to their partner. Whereas I feel very strongly that Zaid was good to other people and kind of toxic and bad to his partner. I also kind of want to say, because I forgot to put this in my notes, but this kind of conversation and this kind of movie, I think women who are going to report any kind of assault that is instigated by something seen in this movie, taking it to trial, whatever, we leave the doorway open for predatory lawyers to say, you liked this movie, you liked this book, this is the type of thing that you're reading, this is implied consent, and you asked for it. We're putting women at risk, and we're taking away their autonomy in a way that maybe we should have a second thought. I hope that I kept that kind of concise. I hope that it made sense. I hope that you see where I'm coming from. I simply wanted to lend my voice to the conversation and what I think is appropriate or right, what my feelings on the situation are. I do not want to send hate to anyone. I do not want to make anyone feel ostracized by liking this kind of book or content. I think when you have a book like this, there are more parameters for, again, young people, for a parent or guardian to say that's inappropriate and I don't want you reading it until we have a discussion or until I can look over it. When you make it publicly available, I think we're just putting people at risk unnecessarily by making this particular movie. Again, these are simply my thoughts and my feelings about what's going on in the book community with this particular movie adaptation. I'm all for a book being turned into a movie, but I think we have to have a larger conversation about, is it appropriate, is it right, and how does this affect people outside of the fandom? Hunting Adeline was the first book I have ever DNF'd in my entire life because I wasn't able to stomach the content. It made me mentally ill. It made me physically ill. I was unprepared going into this book. And I think by creating the first movie, you're setting up for a second movie. And if you're unwilling to quote unquote water down the explicit content or explicit scenes, we're going to be traumatizing a lot of unknowing people. Those are just my thoughts and feelings. You don't have to agree with them. You don't even have to like them. That's okay. If this is your favorite book, cool. That's all for you. I'm never going to tell somebody to not like a book, but I just wanted to put my opinion out into the world. I wanted to add to the conversation in a respectful and healthy way. And I love you guys so much. I'll see you guys in the acknowledgements. Bye.